Good day, everyone. So hope you're doing really well. Here's a question. Did Kokomi have a redemption arc? Well, I'd argue that the true story of Kokomi will absolutely refute this. So, currently in Genshin Impact, there seems to be this idea, this very big misconception that, especially since Endro came out, Kokomi went from a why nobody plays character to why everybody plays character. And it's the type of thing that really irritates me because a lot of people are missing some of the things that happened, especially when Kokomi came out, and precisely what the real deal was with Kokomi and her design. So here's a bit of a spoiler. Kokomi was never designed to be this underdog master tactician, and Hoyo always knew what they were doing with her, and you just had to wait, and then she came into her own. It's the type of thing that, yeah, it makes for a good narrative, it makes people feel good about why they had to skip her initially, and now she's valuable and it might be worth your time if you want her. It's the type of thing that really irritates me because the real value, the true story of this character is locked away. So, why was Kokomi designed? Well, basically, there are two primary reasons. The one is to give you an ease and comfiness of exploration in Inazuma, and secondly, to deal with the new corrosion mechanics that Hoyo introduced into the game. And to be fair, Kokomi does that very, very beautifully. So if you think about it, one of the things that distinguished Inazuma from Mondstadt and Liyue at the time is the fact that the enemy mobs had higher health pools, you had fewer mobs there, so energy recharge definitely became an issue, and survivability was one of the big focus points of Inazuma as well. So what did Kokomi do really, really well? Well, basically, her ability to heal the party was not tied to her elemental burst. Her elemental skill allowed you to apply lots and loads of reactions. It made it very comfy to explore the region with Kokomi. She could heal the entire party, and whilst doing so, she was kind of immune to the effects of electrocharge. She could still take the damage, but the interruption didn't affect her, so it was easier to traverse, and obviously her ability to walk on water in a pretty much water-filled region was kind of useful. In a certain sense, from a casual gameplay perspective, Kokomi really nailed all of these aspects, but she also was quite effective in dealing with the enemies precisely because at the lower adventure ranks she has a higher damage floor due to her being an HP scaler and not needing crit rate and crit damage in her kit, whereas your DPS and your main DPS characters had a lot of their potential locked away behind artifacts. So from a holistic perspective, if you really think about everything that Kokomi did, she was literally the one-size-fits-all solution for a lot of players, and I'd argue that at that time this is so valuable, especially for people that were struggling in Inazuma, especially because the devs had to explicitly nerf the enemies in Inazuma a couple of times over because they saw that players were struggling. So from that perspective, from the perspective of a character that was arguably made to help the masses, she was really successful in everything she did. And even today, when it comes to overworld exploration, Kokomi is one of those that a lot of people have in their party by default for the comfiness. The other thing with Kokomi is, of course, the fact that with the corrosion mechanics that came out, her kit was arguably perfectly designed to deal with it. You have the jellyfish that can apply AoE Hydro to deal with all of the Rift Hounds. You could heal up your entire team and do a non-negligible amount of damage, especially with Ocean U Clam set, and that just gave you an edge here where this healer not only healed up, but you also had an offensive aspect to her. This was obviously something that you could replicate with your other healers and so on, but Kokomi just did it so much more effectively. And I think that's the point that a lot of people missed. For what she was designed, she was really good at the time. And you can also now understand that with having a large HP pool and her being able to auto-track and hit enemies despite them zipping around left and right, the Rift Hounds like going all over, you can understand that the entirety of her kit was really well designed to deal with all of the challenges in Inazuma from a casual and even to an extent from a meta perspective. And that is why I'm personally very much against this idea that Kokomi had a redemption arc, because very obviously from the start, as you can see on screen, a lot of us predicted that due to Kokomi's role compression and her ability to do all of these multiple things, to be so easily built as a character and slot into many different teams, she would be valuable. In other words, all of the fundamental design of Kokomi's kit and the role compression was such that she would naturally take advantage of upcoming game mechanics more easily than other players can. It's precisely that inherent flexibility that we recognized at the time that effectively enabled Kokomi to age so well as a character. This means that she didn't really ever need a redemption arc, precisely because she always had all of the utilities available to fully take advantage of the changing and upcoming game mechanics. And hopefully now you guys can understand why I'm kind of irritated by the fact that people don't get Kokomi's story, because when Kokomi came out, a lot of people looked for reasons not to pull for the character. Most notably, you had the anniversary controversy, and Raiden's banner was before that. But basically, people needed reasons to skip this character, and now that she has a redemption arc, now she's worth pulling on. And that narrative to me is just something that is so irritating, because it misses the story and the real reason why Kokomi was released and the real beauty behind this character. People seem to think Hoyo had a master plan. No, they didn't. Hoyo moves in themes throughout the game. You had the swirl buffs, you had the focus on energy recharge, you had corrosion mechanics, the buff to defense and healing bonus characters, you had the normal attacks. The game moves in themes as it develops its combat system. I don't know if you've noticed this, and Kokomi had her moment where for the content that she was designed to tackle, she really did it well, and nobody acknowledges that. In fact, what a lot of people might object to in this video is to say that, oh, from a meta perspective, Kokomi wasn't as valuable, which is not really true, because given the amount of units at that time, you had freeze and taser reactions, and obviously the infamous Sukokomon reaction that you could play with, as well as some other variations, and it was very easy for you to get 9 stars in the Abyss. Yes, Kokomi might not have given you the fastest solution to beating it as quickly as possible, but really, is that the only metric that we're going to judge characters on? Wouldn't it be enough to judge characters for whether they could sufficiently get you across the line to getting 9 stars? In fact, to argue that doing it as fast as possible is the only reason why you pull on characters is entirely stupid, because nothing about clearing as fast as possible is intrinsic in the game. You get no reward for doing so. So to use that as a reason to not get a character seems to me to be awfully short-sighted, especially given the fact that the majority of the content in the game is not in the Spiral Abyss. So from that perspective, and from this crit rate and crit obsession perspective that people had at the time, I think people truly missed out on the real story, the full reasons why you would have wanted to get Kokomi. And it's now that people have actually kind of woken up to the fact that, hey, you know, this character is actually good, and that she always had these good qualities to her, that you see a lot of people incorrectly attribute this to a redemption arc, so that they can now retroactively justify why it's worth spending Primogems now on Kokomi, but it was okay not to spend at that time, which is just something that irritates me so much. In any case, regardless of what your opinion is, there are things that you cannot argue about, and that's the fact that Kokomi has had a very good, solid design as a character. In my opinion, that is more than good enough, and I think being able to be content with having your characters be good enough is something that the Genshin community still needs to learn a bit more about. It's a maturity that we've not seen, and it's something that a lot of the content creators have not even addressed, but that's a topic for another day. Alright guys, that has been the story of Kokomi in this video. Thank you so much for watching.